So our first guest tonight is an Emmy-nominated TV host and producer. She's worked on shows for the Travel Channel, Discovery, Nat Geo. She's a very sought-after speaker and brand influencer. She's a featured travel expert for Travel and Leisure, Marie Claire, Forbes, Expedia, just to name a few. She's been to all seven continents, and her current country count is somewhere north of 70. According to her website, she thinks quick on her feet, she can manage severe weather, high-speed, squat toilets, and is not afraid of creepy, crawly food.
He knows that better than I do.
Let's give it up for Rachel Rudwall.
I realize that whole video is just my mom's worst nightmare. If she saw that, she would pass out.
Some of the things were pretty crazy.
I took a video of her to put on the internet, as you do with the people you love, when she was watching me dangling from the building, and she almost puked. Like it was a natural reaction to your offspring just really ruining everything for you.
Some of those moments though are like, freaky is like beyond word. Like,
yeah.
They're pretty scary.
Yes, but there's this cool thing that happens when you look fear in the eye and you're like, I see you. I'm gonna just go around.
Well,
like I'm terrified of sharks. Bull sharks are the most aggressive toward humans the world over, but swimming with them in a marine preserve where they're well fed is theoretically safe. So I was like, okay.
Has there ever been anything you haven't done because you were too scared? Or?
I did not want to do the second dive with the bull sharks because there were 40 adult bull sharks. They're massive. They're so close that their tails are brushing against your masks. And we were at 100 feet depth, and this was in Fiji, and I had not been diving at 100 feet or with sharks on purpose. And so I was like, if I survive the sharks, I'm gonna panic and run out of oxygen. And so I thought, I'm my own worst enemy here, and I tried to convince the dive instructor that it was better if I didn't go on the second dive.
How'd that go?
Well, it didn't work,
Yeah.
and I went back, and I loved it, and I will say I would do it again. So sometimes it's a matter of talking yourself out of the fear because you know that it's actually gonna be okay on the other side. And sometimes it takes people who are knowledgeable and supportive to tell you, you got this.
You got this.
Thanks, Boo.
Well, what's up? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
You know,
me.
so for Travel Talk, I get a chance to meet these really cool people, and this is actually the first time we've met. But I've been such a fan of yours for a very long time. And you're actually, I didn't even tell you this one. I put out a poll at Travel Talk, I don't know, 6 or 7 Travel Talks ago. And you were the one person that people told me, multiple people said they want you to be a guest.
Cool, if you're here, Sarah, for voting multiple times. Thank you.
Yeah, big shout out to Sarah, who did actually
Voting
introduce us.
multiple times. Thank you.
She did, right?
She just changed the handwriting.
That's all right, it apparently worked. But I'm really stoked you're here. I'm really glad you're here. I want to talk about a bunch of things with you. Because I think we see this side of you, and that the glamorous or the scary and the TV host and all this stuff you've done. I'm going to put some pictures up and we'll talk about it. You spent quite a bit of time in Alaska, in the Arctic, working on Deadliest Catch, Ice Road Truckers, Axemen. I love this shot because it seriously looks straight out of Northern Exposure. But you look like such a badass just trying to figure out what's going on, where you are. Tell us about these experiences working there and the shows you worked on.
So the backstory to all the things that you might see in the Nightmare Mom video up here is that I wanted to learn to be a storyteller. I'm from small town Ohio. I did not know anyone who worked in media. And when I decided that I wanted to work as a storyteller, it took lots of time to suss out where I wanted to live and the people that I might talk to and get insight or inspiration or eventually jobs. And some of those people that I spoke to were the people who produced Deadliest Catch and Ice Roads and Axemen and a whole bunch of testosterone-driven, like manly man stuff that puts hair on your chest shows. And so those were the people who hired me, who trusted me. My family thought it was a demotion. They're like, that's cute. They're sending you so far away, like to the Arctic, where you might die. But I spent a long time then working in these adverse conditions. It's actually the Alaskan Arctic's the only place where I've ever had my eyes freeze shut. And you just gotta give them a little massage. They warm up.
They freeze shut.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
Mm-hmm. Your beard would be a giant icicle.
It would be a great Instagram shot.
It would.
So how long were you up there in total?
So I was in Alaska, all over the state for about a year and a half.
Put another picture up.
And then that one is in BC on a grizzly tracking assignment, which is pretty rad because you learn bears are, excuse me while I fashion.
Yeah.
That's a survival suit. Has like lobster claw hands. You can't make sandwiches with as much agility.
But they keep you warm, which is the whole point.
They do. So if you fall in the water, you don't immediately go hypothermic. And if you're hypothermic,
But Rachel, I wanted to share this stuff, and I wanted to talk about the initial Arctic in Alaska because I wanted to put the context that we see the end result in your video and the, well, if you will, the glamorous stuff of being on Travel Channel or all this other stuff. But there's a lot of hard work, and I love that you shared the story that when you did get to LA and you got a job with Original, you hustled to call everyone you could to figure out how am I going to get in the door, and then work your way up from PAs to associate producers to producing a lot of these really profound and known shows that put you on the road and then led you to hosting. So do you think these producing experiences in some really remote, extreme places helped you with your career and then travels?
Oh yeah, so anything that you want to do, it benefits you to learn from people who are already doing it well. So if you want to begin something, don't go out there and assume you already know it. And I knew so little because when I went to college, I was studying international relations and foreign languages. I thought I would be a diplomat. And so when I jumped the tracks and decided going into my last year of school that I actually wanted to work in media, I had no idea what that even meant. I didn't know terminology, I didn't have connections. And so by putting myself out there and being like, I know not what I do, and then having people share their wisdom with me, I began to learn and I began to become a storyteller. I might have thought I was already, but I'm learning that the more I know, the more I realize I do not know. It's always good to have the beginner's mind. And when you are put in the context of helping somebody else toward their vision, it might not be exactly what you want to do already, but it's teaching you. And so I can't say honestly that my deep dark inkling would be to tell stories about guys driving truck across ice, or that I would want to sit in the cab of a truck for 20,000 miles with a man named Ray Valou, who had a Napoleon complex and did crash, but I learned a lot, right? And so in being in those situations, it was a series of trials by fire, where if I did not succeed, I wouldn't get hired again. If I didn't get hired again, I wouldn't pay my rent. So I had to tell people stories for them to the best of my ability and continue learning and adapting. And as media changed, then my path changed, and I could begin to diversify and start to tell the stories that I actually wanted to tell.
And that goes really well with your motto of it's either a really good experience or a really good story.
Yeah, I think that's true even of the darkest and the most challenging things that happen to us. There's this superpower that we have, which is to shape our own narratives. And so the things that happen in our lives can become a part of the next step, the picture of self, the big idea, and always can make you laugh if you tell them right.
Well said. I do want to come back to right after college and your experience, but I want to talk about how you said growing up in Ohio and you just wanted to get out of there and you wanted to travel, international business, studying Spanish as ways to what you thought help you get to be working for an NGO, which obviously that didn't work out that well, but it seemed to work out in your favor. I'm also putting this picture up because you did a pretty unique thing for your honeymoon. Share about this.
So Kilimanjaro is a big hill.
Has anyone here ever summited Kilimanjaro?
What's up, girl?
All right, so we got two people.
Yeah.
This is no joke. Well done, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High five. I say it's a big hill because Kilimanjaro, it's the tallest mountain in Africa. have kind of a linguistic trap where we say we climbed Kilimanjaro because it's the easiest way to say we took a really long hike up to the top of a mountain. But you don't have to scramble. Anyone in this room could climb Kilimanjaro if you're willing to just be with less oxygen for a week or so. Maybe be chilly, drink cocoa along the way. But Todd, my adventure partner, and I, when we told people we wanted to climb Kilimanjaro for our honeymoon, which is in Tanzania, they were like, oh, 8 days, into tent, and then no showers, it's neat. And we were like, we have a long time to try to figure out sexy. So there was a cool thing that I learned though, which is, and it's kind of a metaphor for life. I realized when we were standing on the top of the mountain, we made it, and we were short of breath, and we had star vision because we were so high and also elated. And I was like, wow, you can only get to the top of that physical or metaphorical mountain of your own volition. No one else can tell you to do it. No one else can make you take the steps that are the hardest, but sharing the path with others is a really rich experience. So you walk the path together, and then at the end you have to take the steps yourself.
That's pretty deep. It's a pretty big metaphor you can just keep carrying with you. So did you think about that when you were there, or it just kind of hit you after?
No, it hit me after, somewhere around when the monkeys were stealing our snacks from the safari car. Wily monkeys.
Well, and again, I wanted to show this because I think you guys are getting a whole picture of who Rachel is on some level, not just from that opening travel host videos. I want to show just the interesting kind of places and complexity of, in a great way, of what you have done travel-wise. Showing one other picture in Africa is you at Victoria Falls. And when we were talking, I guess it was last week, and we were talking about some of these moments, and we talk about these travel with meaning moments, right? These things that have really left an impact in your life. You talked about this day, and you talked about this day because there were a lot of almost dangerous type things that were happening to you. Who's been to Victoria Falls? Who's been to Tanzania?
So this is
Good
on
job,
the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe. You can raise your hand if you've been to either of those two.
My mom back there.
Hey, Mom. Yeah, so you gotta go. Hey.
So tell us about that day, and why was it kind of one of those moments for you that stood out as travel with meaning, something that's going to stay with you?
So how many people have traveled somewhere that just made them feel terribly small and then realized they liked it? Yeah. So being tiny in the face of bigger things, like I am a speck of dust, this is fun. I don't have to take it all seriously or be the one that changes it all. Like right now, I just get to breathe in the air. Zimbabwe for me is a place that did that, in part because it made me feel mortal a lot. In a span of a day, I flew in a helicopter over the falls, then I took a speedboat past the hungry hippos to the top of the falls, and there's a season which you're allowed to swim at the top. You'll see photos sometimes, people look up hashtag Victoria Falls or Vic Falls, you'll see people swimming at Angel's Pool. The season that I was working there with a travel client, it was the rainy season, so the water was much too high, and I was like, well, I guess we're not swimming at Angel Falls. And they're like, no, or Angel's Pool. I said, we're swimming at Devil's Pool. And I was like, that sounds even worse.
That name is not too inviting.
What do you mean? And they're like, it's a place that locals will swim. And I was like, even when it's the rainy season and the water's too high? And they're like, yeah. So then we swam at the top of the falls, which is probably one of my scariest moments because it is up to you to not just bone it. Like if you make a wrong move, bye, like it's been real. So I was very cautious. For someone who will jump out of a plane and stuff, I did the full beached whale, like on my stomach to the edge, and everyone else was like, "Get over here, weird foreign lady." But I put my head over the edge, and then so we'd done the zip line and the heli and the swimming at the top of the falls and the speedboat, and then I got charged by a hippo when I was canoeing the Zambezi. And I'm surprised that the thing that didn't kill me was my husband murdering me afterward because I came home, he wasn't on this job with me. And he's like, wow, that's so crazy. And I was like, yeah, do you want to see the footage? And he was like, wow, you were rolling? And I was like, well, no. I mean, I heard paddle, 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 and a big splash. And so I hit record. And he's like, you lost precious seconds. You know? He's like, you almost died. I was like, I gotta get it on tape. I love you.
I got the shot.
I love you. Like Grizzly Man style.
Well, so I wanted to bring up this whole Big Falls and actually this experience because as we talk about those moments that stick with you, and whether it's getting almost charged by a hippo or charged by a hippo.
False charge, turns out.
False charge. Ziplining, devil's pool, all those things. Again, you've been so many places, and those little things that kind of stick with you in those moments. That's why it's important to have those. All right, this is actually a thing I've been really excited to talk to you about. Again, we mentioned that you grew up in Ohio, and all you want to do was get out of there. You studied abroad in Scotland, correct? Spain.
For different courses, and if you take out loans for your college, you can justify studying overseas. You're like, whatever.
And as you were studying abroad, you found a Craigslist ad, and I think you said it was in Denver, which sounds random, but we're getting somewhere, for STA. Who knows what STA is?
STA Travel.
STA Travel.
Yeah.
So they were the largest student-run travel agency in the world. And they were holding a contest for a travel intern. Basically, you get the dream job to travel for a year.
3 months, but you live with the memories for a year. It's a 3 months. It's a 3 month.
It was 3 months? I thought you traveled for a year. You went to 15 countries in 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay. So, skip to guess who won? So, in 2007, you traveled. This is, pre-big social media. Facebook was probably still out, but you traveled 15 countries in 3 months. Had a lot of your big first experiences traveling. Overnight trains. You did Asia. You were in Australia. All these amazing moments. And so when I was talking to Rachel about this, I was like, well, where's the footage? I want to see some of these videos. I want to see some of the pictures. And she was like, oh, it just doesn't exist.
It went on iTunes. This was before they were sound-based, okay? They had videos that they called video podcasts. Because YouTube didn't exist, not to date myself.
But people, YouTube, you can find almost anything.
So they put me on different tours in different regions of the world, and in this particular case, the company that I was traveling with was called Eye to Eye, and I got to volunteer for 3.5 weeks with giant pandas in rural China, and they basically just they were like, bye, they just sent me to nowhere, Shanxi province, China, and I just lived on noodles and panda love, which is pretty dope. The pandas don't remember me, but I do remember them. And Australia, it was 3 weeks traveling in Australia. It was a week trekking in Thailand, and then there were just many whirlwind places in Europe.
So since it was part of STA, you were making these videos for these tour groups. They were then promoting. There was really no YouTube, internet at the time, so they were showing these in the STA locations?
Yeah, so STA Travel, being a tour and travel provider, they sold all these different tour packages around the world to students. So my job was to go around the world and create media to inspire people to travel. I had not made videos prior to my application video, and it ended up being not a good edit, but there was some funny moments. Like I had an umbrella and I was trying to talk to camera in Scotland and the wind blew it open. And I was like, well, we'll keep that. It was like, whoosh. I looked like an idiot and I was like, that's kind of funny. And I'm convinced that part of the reason they gave me the job out of the 1,000-some people that applied is because I had been overseas multiple times and not died. Which is why I kept getting hired for Alaska shows. Didn't die that time.
Let's bring her back again to see how she does this time.
Yeah,
well, so I do find this whole STA thing fascinating. The experiences you had, the travels. So from your career, you probably in your wildest dreams had no idea at that time you were shooting with pandas or all these other things, that you'd be doing this years later. Have you gone back ever to any of these places that you had those experiences?
Yeah, I've been back to Thailand a number of times, and to a lot of the spots in Europe that I visited and that I had, some of which I had visited prior when I was studying abroad. Because students in the video that you played were saying the cool thing about spending time abroad is on a weekend you can go to another country instead of just like the same bar. Yeah, you heard that part. Those are places that I return to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to pivot and ask you a question though. As I mentioned in kind of your bio, you are tapped as this influencer, as this featured travel expert. With the holidays and stuff, do you find that people, is it like a trending thing that people are giving more like travel gifts versus let me get you a sweater? Do you find that that's happening more?
Yeah, people are giving experiences. It's the coolest thing. It doesn't have to specifically be travel, but somebody that might love music, or they may like really need a massage. My mom loves to get her toes did, and she would never buy herself a pedicure. So that counts as an experience. But like if you look at Delta Airlines, their marketing is all about not what you're buying someone, but where. And so someone actually came up to me. I was on a job in British Columbia last week, and he was like, hey, we hadn't met, and he's like, I heard you work in travel, and I'm thinking of buying my girlfriend a trip. Do you think that's a good idea? And I was like, hell yeah. And then he was like, I don't know where it's gonna be, and so we were kind of walking through the logistics of does he buy the ticket? He's like, I could give her cash, and I was like, because that just looks weird, but you can, future reference, you could like make a little ticket, like color it, that'd be cute. Anyone out there thinking of buying a gift for someone, just make the ticket, draw it. And there's a lot of research that's been done by Saatchi and Saatchi in particular about the move toward the experiential focus of travel as opposed to the thread count. And so more people want to be outside of the hotel and have that as a basis for their adventure as opposed to the place where they spend the entire adventure.
Awesome. Let me ask you one question. What does travel mean to you?
Travel means feeling small in all the ways that are important and feeling connected in all the ways that keep us tethered.
Wow, great answer. Where to next?
Ohio for Christmas. We'll be at
So
Nana's.
exotic.
Yeah, let me know if you want to play Cards Against Humanity with Nana. She shreds at that game.
I imagine. That would be
She's good.
awkwardly fun to play with Nana, Cards Against Humanity.
Yes, well said.
After Ohio, any other holiday trips?
Yeah, so there are some plans in the works to be in a remote corner of Canada, Lapland at the top of Finland, and potentially Egypt.